I was sent to investigate an abandoned house. It was midnight when the phone started ringing. Hello? I mumbled, tired and in the middle of changing for bed. Hey, Jethro, remember me? Came a smooth, familiar voice on the other end. Of course I remembered him. He was the smug bastard I owed a favor to, ever since he saved my life at that cursed stone formation. How could I forget? You're the asshole I owe a favor to, I replied, already irritated. Careful now, Asaph chuckled. This asshole did save your life. And what's with the attitude? I thought we were friends. Yeah, whatever. So what's this about? You calling to wish me a Merry Christmas? Not exactly, he said, far too cheerful for my liking. I'm calling in that favor you owe me. I sighed. All right, what do you need and when? I need it done by the end of this week, Asaph said, still sounding like this was no big deal. Let me guess. This isn't going to be simple, is it? Otherwise, you wouldn't be calling me. I was already mentally saying goodbye to my sleep and the rest of my week. You've got it all wrong, buddy, he said with a laugh. If it was difficult, I'd just take care of it myself. Sure, so what's the job? Straight to the point as always, he muttered. Don't you ever just lighten up? I was planning on going skiing tomorrow, I said, annoyed. Guess that's out the window now, huh? Watch the attitude. Anyway, here's the deal. I need you to check out an abandoned house. Should have been demolished by now. An abandoned house? Why the hell does that suddenly matter? Especially now during Christmas. It didn't. Not until yesterday, he said, tone shifting slightly. Yesterday, I got a dozen calls from people in the town near it. They all said the same thing, that they heard screams coming from the place. Screams? Yeah, some sounded human. Men, women, children. Others, not so much. And the human ones? They didn't sound like just someone yelling. It was like people were being tortured for hours, then killed. Jesus Christ, are you seriously telling me to walk into a house where people are screaming like they're being murdered? Telling you? Asaph replied, his voice tinged with irritation. No, Jethro, you will go there, like it or not. You owe me. Asshole, I muttered under my breath, more to myself than to him. All right, what's the name of this place? Now that's the spirit, he said, way too pleased with himself. His condescending tone scraped every last nerve I had. The town's called Oakenburg, but don't bother looking for it on any standard map. Why is that? I asked, already sensing I wouldn't like the answer. No idea, he replied casually. There's no history on it, no records, just nothing. I'm sure you'll figure things out once you're there. Merry Christmas. And with that, the call ended before I could say another word. He actually had the nerve to wish me a Merry Christmas. Sometimes I really do wish he hadn't saved my life. Now I was left staring at my gear rack, trying to figure out what weapons and ammo to bring. My phone buzzed with a message, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was a GPS pin, smack in the middle of some dense forest. The nearest road looked to be about 1 kilometer away. Underneath the coordinates, Asaph had left a note. That road should exist. You'll find it easily. There'll be a dirt path. It'll look old and unused at first, but once you're on it, it'll feel freshly paved. Good luck. Of course, a mysterious road leading to a hidden town no one's ever heard of. What could possibly go wrong? The only intel Asaph gave me was that I'd be checking out an abandoned house, one where screams, both human and inhuman, had been heard. My mind immediately started spinning with possibilities. A skinwalker? Those things are known for mimicking cries and voices, especially of people you care about, but they usually haunt forests. Maybe a lady in white or a banshee? Both are linked to screaming and death. Whatever it was, I wasn't going in unprepared. I grabbed the Soul Snatcher, my customized shotgun, and the Nightmare Ender, a beast of a rifle with a double extended mag that could pump out 10 rounds per second. Just to cover all bases, I also packed my trusty revolver. Then came the special ammo, including silver rounds. I wasn't going to risk anything. Not this time. By 3 a.m., I was geared up and on the road to Oakenburg. Hours later, I arrived. It was 2 p.m. when I pulled up. You do the math. The entrance to the town greeted me with a natural archway formed by towering oaks. There was something almost magical about them, the kind of ancient beauty that feels too perfect to be real. The town itself was small, a single coffee shop, a couple of local markets, a smattering of homes, quiet, peaceful, too peaceful. At the edge of town stood a classic old wooden sign, its faded lettering still readable. Population 100. I didn't waste any time. I headed straight for the coffee shop. Figuring if anyone knew anything about what the hell was going on, it'd be the locals. As I stepped into the coffee shop, the warm scent of freshly brewed coffee filled my lungs, instantly waking me up more than I expected. The air carried a blend of roasts, bitter, sweet, nutty, all merging into a fragrance that felt both energizing and oddly comforting. I walked up to the counter and sat on a tall, polished wooden stool. "What can I get you today?" asked the barista. Her name tag read Molly. She looked young, probably in her early 20s. Her curly brown hair framed her face, resting just on her shoulders. She had a petite nose and eyes like dark coffee beans, deep, calm, and watchful. Her skin was pale, almost porcelain-like, with a soft velvet glow to it. The contrast made her rosy cheeks stand out even more. "Irish coffee, please," I said, my voice heavy with fatigue. "Coming right up," she replied with a gentle cheer in her tone. "I don't think I've seen you around before. Just move here?" "Not exactly," I said, stirring the coffee she placed in front of me. "Just here for business." "Business?" she echoed, raising an eyebrow with polite curiosity. "There's not much going on here worth doing business for." "Not that kind of business," I replied. Her curiosity deepened as she leaned slightly forward, clearly intrigued. I took a sip of my coffee, hot enough to burn my tongue, which made her laugh softly. "Well then, what brings you here, mister?" She paused, hinting for a name. "Jethro," I said, offering a small nod. "Jethro," she repeated, letting the name roll off her tongue with a shy smile. Her cheeks turned a shade redder, and I couldn't help but wonder how long it had been since she'd had a conversation with someone new. "I'm here about the house," I continued, sipping again. The whiskey was strong, maybe stronger than usual, but I liked it that way. She froze for a moment. The shift in her demeanor was immediate. "You mean that house?" Her voice dropped to a near whisper, the lightness gone, replaced with a layer of dread. "Yeah," I said, glancing at my gear bag beside the stool. "Heard it's been causing some problems." She followed my gaze to the bag, then looked back at me. I caught myself getting lost in her eyes again, those deep, autumn-colored eyes. Something about them told me this town didn't see many strangers, and it probably saw even fewer that walked out again. "Are you with the police?" "FB," she asked, cautiously. I let out a soft chuckle. "No, nothing like that. Let's just say I'm a private kind of guy." She studied me for a moment, then gave a small nod, like she believed me, or at least knew not to ask more than I'd offer. "Do you know where it is?" I asked. "Yeah," she said quietly. "After you leave here, take a right and just keep going. You'll know which house it is when you see it." I took the last sip of my Irish coffee, the heat now faded but the kick still sharp. I gave her a nod of thanks as I stood, my mind already shifting into work mode. "Thanks," I said, reaching for my wallet. "How much do I owe you for the coffee?" Molly looked at me for a few moments, eyes studying mine before finally responding. "Oh, it's on the house." Her voice dipped slightly, taking on a softer, flirtier tone. "And here, a little something extra." She handed me a small slip of paper, a phone number. I took it with a smile, doing my best to play it cool. "I'll make sure to use this gift when I get the chance." "Gladly do," she said with a warm smile that lit up her already rosy cheeks. Then, a little more seriously, she asked, "One more thing. How did you even find this town? We're not exactly on any map. We kind of like it that way." I shrugged and gave her a faint grin. "I have my ways." Before she could press the question, I turned and walked out of the shop. As I stepped back onto the street, I could feel the weight of curious eyes on me. A guy with a massive bag, clearly not from around here. I must have looked like I'd stepped off a movie set. People stared at me like I was some exotic animal behind glass. Their quiet, scrutinizing looks followed me as I made my way further down the road. But the further I went, the fewer people I saw, until there was no one at all. The town felt like it had quietly exhaled and gone still. Molly hadn't been exaggerating. I knew exactly which house it was the moment I laid eyes on it. Most of the homes I'd passed were cheerful, painted in warm colors with neatly trimmed lawns and oak fences. Driveways were full of signs of life, parked cars, scattered toys, chalk doodles on the sidewalk. Then there was this house. It looked like something torn from the final scene of a horror film. The structure was wooden, once proud, now slumped like a dying old man. Its paint had long faded, the weather having beaten it down into a dull, lifeless brown. Time hadn't just passed. It had carved its name into every inch of the place. The glass in the windows was shattered, leaving jagged holes like hollow eyes in a skull. Wind howled softly through them, the empty frames channeling the cold winter air inside. The porch, what little was left of it, sagged under its own weight. Planks were missing from every side of the railing. Still, the stairs were intact. I stepped up, and each board beneath my feet groaned in protest, the creaks echoing like reluctant warnings. The siding was overrun with vines, nature slowly reclaiming what it had once lost. The second story fared no better. The roof had collapsed inward on one side, bricks scattered like broken teeth. The whole house radiated something wrong. It didn't just look abandoned, it felt like it didn't belong in this world anymore. And yet, there it stood. I followed a faint dirt path to the porch and stepped through what remained of the doorway. Just the bare frame now. The moment I crossed the threshold, everything changed. All the sounds from outside vanished. No wind, no birds, no far-off cars. Just an eerie silence that settled over me like a shroud. A chill crept down my spine, the hairs on the back of my neck standing at full attention. It felt like I had crossed into another world. I turned around quickly, half expecting everything outside to be gone. But no, the front yard, the fence, the road, they were all still there. I was still on Earth. But something about this place, it didn't feel like Earth anymore. To my left was what remained of a kitchen. Drawers had been yanked out and dumped across the floor, some cracked, some still intact. The walls were splattered with stains in various colors, but one stood out immediately, a deep, dark red. I moved closer to inspect it, and my suspicion was confirmed. It was dried blood. Not ancient either, just a few days old at most. What the hell happened here? I muttered under my breath. Leaving the kitchen behind, I ventured deeper into the house. On my right, I spotted a wooden door. It still had a round metal knob, and when I turned it, it gave a soft click, unlocked. I opened it and stepped inside. It looked like a guest bedroom. The bed was still there, supported by a beautiful carved wooden frame, handcrafted by the look of it. Even under a thick layer of dust, the craftsmanship was clear, but the once white bedsheet had turned a stained, grim, dark red. More blood. To my right stood a broken mirror with two unlit candles resting beside it. I turned to my left, and that's when I saw it. A pentagram, drawn in blood, right in the center of the floor, and in the middle of it, what was left of a cat. I gagged and turned away instantly, stumbling out of the room. I've faced a lot in my life. I'm 6 feet tall, and not much gets under my skin, but something about the torture or sacrifice of innocent animals always hits me in a way I can't ignore. Who the hell does something like that to a kitten? I took a few moments in the hall to steady my breathing. Then I dropped my bag to the floor and began prepping my weapons. If someone had performed a demonic ritual here, and by the looks of it they definitely had, God only knew what might still be lingering in the shadows. Just a few feet down, another room lay to the left. Beyond that, the hallway ended, with a staircase veering off to the right. I approached the next door cautiously, bracing myself for whatever might be inside, but nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. The moment I crossed the threshold, the stench hit me, death and rot so thick it clawed at the back of my throat. I flipped the safety off my revolver and stepped in fully. It was another bedroom. To the left sat an old box TV, long dead, its screen hidden beneath a film of dust. A nightstand stood next to the bed, its drawers gone, only the empty shell remaining. On top, resting in a tarnished faux gold frame, was a photograph. It showed a smiling family, a father proudly holding a massive salmon, two boys standing beside him with big grins. Looked like a fishing trip. I assumed the mother had taken the picture. From the warmth in that photo alone, I could tell this must have been the parents' room, but my attention quickly shifted to the bed. Tied to it was a teenage boy, his wrists and ankles bound tightly to the thick wooden frame. The ropes looked deliberate, like someone had gone out of their way to make sure he couldn't move. He was still. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. What truly carved itself into my memory was the state of the boy's body. He looked to be around 15 or 16, his shirt ripped open and hanging off him in tatters. His torso had been mutilated, organs torn out, not with surgical precision, but as if something wild had clawed its way in. Some organs were ripped in half, others smashed into pulp, and a few looked dry, drained as though the blood had been sucked from them. They weren't just discarded, they'd been arranged, meticulously placed around the boy's body, mimicking his shape as though someone or something had recreated his form using his own insides. His neck had a deep, clean slash across it, far too straight to be from claws or teeth. Patches of his hair had been torn out violently, and his face, I'll never forget it. A frozen mask of terror, shock, regret, and absolute panic. His mouth hung wide open, locked in a silent scream. Several teeth were missing, and his tongue, cut out, was probably somewhere among the organs on the floor. If the last room made me gag, this one broke me. I doubled over and vomited onto the blood-stained floor. Everything I'd eaten the day before came up, along with the Irish coffee still burning in my gut. I kept throwing up until there was nothing left, just dry heaves and dizziness. Every time I tried to look up, even catching a glimpse of the boy set me off again. I couldn't bear it. Finally, I holstered my revolver and stumbled out of the room, slamming the door shut behind me, like it would somehow seal away what I'd just seen. What the actual fuck happened in that room? Who could do that to a teenager? More questions kept piling up in my head, but not a single answer came with them. And worse, I still had half the house left to search. I turned and stared out through the frame of a shattered window. The light was fading fast. Shadows crept across the snow-covered ground, stretching long and ominous. I didn't want to be here after dark. I didn't even want to be here now. And I hated Asaph more than ever. That smug bastard had dropped me into this nightmare without a second thought. Still, I had a job to finish, which meant I had to go upstairs. I pressed on, my mind still reeling. The hallway ended at a staircase, old, brittle, and barely holding itself together. Several of the wooden steps were broken clean through. Others were missing entirely. I moved cautiously, sticking close to the wall, since the guardrail had long since collapsed into splinters. My boots creaked against the ancient wood as I climbed, one shaky step at a time. I nearly stepped straight into a hole where a stair should have been, caught myself at the last second. The last thing I needed was to break my ankle in this place. Not now. When I reached the second floor and it came fully into view, I saw something that could only be described as hell. If the first floor hid its horrors behind doors, this one wore them proudly, smeared across every surface. Blood wasn't just present, it was everywhere. The walls were covered in it, splattered and stained, forming crude pentagrams that dripped and stretched like they were still wet. The floor hadn't been spared either. Dark red streaks and smears layered over the wood like a grotesque carpet. Scrawled over and over again in dried blood were the words, "Help." The handwriting looked erratic, frantic, like it had been scratched out by someone on the brink of insanity. There were 3 rooms on this floor, plus a closed attic door near the end of the hall, latched shut against the ceiling. And beyond it, a large painting hung crookedly on the far wall, half obscured by blood. From what I could make out beneath the red stains, it once depicted a peaceful hayfield, sun-drenched and calm. The contrast felt like a slap in the face. This time, I didn't bother with the revolver. I took out the shotgun. No more risks. "Okay, Jethro, you've looked death in the eyes before and walked away. You can do this," I told myself over and over. And yes, I actually have met death, but that's a story for another time. I walked to the first door on the left and kicked it in. The wood gave way with a loud crack as the door hit the floor. Shotgun up, I scanned the room, ceiling, corners, under the bed, but there was nothing waiting for me. Just more horror. More scribbles on the walls, darker and more unhinged than the ones outside. "Satan save us. He is in the attic. Stay away from the attic." And again, "Help, help, help." I stared at one line. "He is in the attic." My gaze slowly shifted back toward the hallway, toward that closed attic door. That attic. I turned back to the room, and that's when I saw them. 3 more teenagers. Mangling didn't even begin to describe it. Their bodies had been brutalized, organs missing, limbs twisted unnaturally. Blood pooled beneath them, and based on the state of the corpses, they'd only been dead for a few days. This was where the screams had come from. I swallowed back a wave of nausea and stepped out of the room. There were only 2 rooms left, the one just before the attic and one right after it. I opened the door to the right, but inside, the floor and walls had caved in. Part of the wall had collapsed into the next room, blending the 2 into one ruin. Rubble and broken furniture filled the space. Nothing moved, but even from the hallway, I could tell more blood had been spilled there too. No bodies, but plenty of death. I was about to turn away when I heard it, a loud, echoing slam. My head whipped toward the attic. Shit! The attic door was open. I immediately checked my shotgun, making sure the rounds were silver-coated. Slowly, I stepped toward the black void above. Peeking carefully around the corner, the attic's mouth gaped above me like a waiting tomb. Nothing moved, no sound, just that yawning, silent darkness, daring me to come closer. Maybe the latch just gave out and dropped on its own, I told myself. Then I heard it, a long, low hiss, and then it pounced. A towering creature came crashing down from the attic like a meteor, dragging with it the mangled bodies of 2 police officers and 1 woman. It didn't see me at first. Its head was twisted completely backward, mounted on a long, thick neck covered in deep black hair, just like the rest of its monstrous body. 2 long, bony horns jutted out from its skull, ending in sharp tips slick with fresh, dripping blood. Despite its jet-black fur, grotesque yellow veins pulsed beneath the surface, pumping some kind of glowing green liquid. Its eyes were buried deep in its skull, red marble set in tunnel-like sockets, soulless, piercing, consuming. There was no visible nose, only an open mouth, stretching wide to reveal a grotesquely long tongue, hiding behind 2 jagged rows of blood-stained, razor-sharp teeth. Around its neck hung a necklace, a trophy, crafted from organs and other human remains. This thing had been busy up there. Its torso was broad and muscular, built like a tank. Its arms hung low, nearly touching the ground, ending in 4 thick clawed fingers, each nail long and wickedly pointed. Its legs were stubby and bent, 3-toed like a pig's, thick with muscle and purpose. And then, everything stopped. Blood in mid-drip, the air itself, even time. Just me and it, facing off in the hallway. I couldn't hear anything but the pounding of my own heart, slamming in my chest like a war drum. I wanted to move, to react, but my body was frozen in place. That sickening, rotting stench surrounded me, held me like a shroud. Fear clamped down on my bones. I nearly threw up right there, but I knew I couldn't make a sound. Then it started sniffing the air. It had caught my scent. I had to act, right now, or die where I stood. "Come get some, you piece of shit!" I yelled, sliding into the center of the hallway. I fired 2 booming shotgun blasts straight into its chest. The creature let out a horrific screech, equal parts rage and agony. It charged, leaping at me, but I managed to roll to the side just in time. It collided with the attic staircase, obliterating it like it was made of paper. This thing could kill me in a single hit. I needed to be perfect. 8 shells left. It snarled, steam-like breath bursting from its mouth as it turned and charged again. I stood firm and fired 3 more shots into its torso. It took them, absorbing the hits like a wild, starving animal. They slowed it, but not enough. I didn't have time to dodge. It slammed into me, launching me like a rag doll down the staircase. I hit the bottom wall hard, the impact knocking the air out of me in a brutal, wheezing scream. My back felt like it had been shattered, but somehow, miraculously, nothing broke. I lay there for a few seconds, dazed, gasping, struggling to fill my lungs. Still alive, but barely. I pushed myself to my feet, groaning as I leaned against the cracked wall for support. The creature was coming down the stairs, but not using them. It was breaking them. Each step crumbled beneath its weight like brittle bones. "You should have left," it screeched, its voice like metal tearing through flesh. "Now you'll pay like the others." "This all you got, asshole?" I shouted back, drenched in sarcasm, trying to mask the pain. That pissed it off. It charged. I dodged just in time, but my shotgun slipped from my grip and clattered behind the demon. It didn't even glance at it. No time to retrieve it. I yanked my rifle into position and opened fire. The thing raised its claws, thick, jagged nails flashing in the dim light, and started deflecting the bullets like they were nothing. "Can you fucking die already?" I roared, emptying the rest of the mag. It shrieked and slammed both fists into the floor, shaking the ground beneath us in some twisted show of dominance. That was my moment. I slammed in 2 fresh mags, fully loaded, raised the rifle and aimed for its head. Pop, pop, shots into its eyes. It howled, flailing in pain. I didn't stop. I closed my eyes, clenched my teeth, and squeezed the trigger. Again and again. The roar of the rifle filled the air, drowning out everything but my heartbeat. This was my only chance. If it got back up, I was done. Time lost all meaning, until click, 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 empty. Panting, I opened my eyes, unsure of what I'd see. The hallway was still. At my feet, the creature lay twisted and broken, riddled with bullet holes. Its blood, if you could call it that, pooled like tar across the floor. Still not taking any chances, I rushed over and grabbed my shotgun. 3 shells left. I unloaded all of them into its head. Boom, boom, boom. "Who's dead now, you bitch?" I yelled, voice cracking with equal parts relief and fury. I holstered my weapons, turned around, and limped toward the door. I checked my watch. 3 a.m. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. Of course it was 3 a.m., the witching hour. How poetic. But the moment my boots hit the sidewalk, that's when the pain finally caught up. Everything hurt. My arms felt like they'd been set on fire. My shoulders throbbed. My back screamed. I looked down and saw it. A long, deep gash slashed across both my legs, perfectly symmetrical. The bastard must have taken one last swipe at me before going down. I was bleeding. Badly. But I was alive. Groaning with every step, I limped away from that cursed house and started the slow walk back into town. Everyone in the town must have heard what went down. As I limped through the darkness, one by one, lights flicked on inside every house, flooding the streets with a soft golden glow. The town came alive in silence. Men, women, children, entire families stepped onto their porches and front lawns, watching me pass. All their eyes carried the same question. Is it done? I didn't speak. I just kept walking and nodded. That was enough. Cheers erupted all around me. Applause echoed down the street. People clapped, shouted words of thanks. Some even cried. It was like they were hailing a war hero. Me? I was barely holding myself upright. I made my way through the crowd without stopping, heading straight for my car, still parked in front of the coffee shop. With a pained groan, I pulled the keys from my pocket, unlocked the door. Just as I was about to get in, a voice called out behind me, making me flinch. "Hey, Jethro, wait!" I knew that voice. I turned around, wincing. "What's up?" I asked, forcing the best smile I could manage. Molly stood there, looking just like she had in the cafe, but with a deeper worry in her eyes. "What was in that house?" she asked. Her voice was soft, but still brimming with the same curiosity I'd seen earlier. I held her gaze for a long second, debating whether to tell her the truth. Finally, I said, "You wouldn't sleep anymore if I told you." She looked down, lips pressed together, thinking. Before she could speak, I cut in. "Do you know if there have been reports of any missing people?" Her face lit up, the smallest glimmer of hope returning. Yes, I do," she said quickly. "My son, he's 16. He went missing a few days ago. He and some friends went to explore that house, but they never came back. Then some locals went in after them and didn't return either. Finally, our volunteer police, our only officers, went and they disappeared too. After that, no one had the courage to go near the place. We just started praying." Her voice faltered, but the hope was still there. "Did you find them?" The answer slammed into my gut like a sledgehammer. Her son, tied to the bed, his friends, butchered upstairs. The cops, their bodies tossed like garbage near that monster's lair. I swallowed hard, the taste of bile rising again as I nodded grimly. "They're dead," I said, gently but firmly. "All of them, and if you want to sleep peacefully ever again, don't go near that house. Don't even look at it." Tears welled up in her eyes. She didn't speak right away, but when she finally did, her voice trembled. "I understand. Thank you for what you did." I gave her a small nod, pausing just a moment longer. Then, to even my own surprise, I said something I hadn't planned on. "Want to come with me?" She blinked. "Out of this town?" I added. "Fresh start. I've got enough money for both of us, and I'm planning to take a long vacation starting tomorrow. I'd really like your company." Through the tears, Molly managed a small smile. "Yeah," she said softly. "A fresh start sounds good." There wasn't much excitement in her voice, but I couldn't blame her, not after everything she'd just learned. "If you don't mind waiting while I pack up a few things, I'll come with you." "Of course," I replied. "Mind if I come along? Keep you company?" "I'd like that," she said with a nod. As we started walking together, a few locals approached us, faces filled with questions. I glanced at Molly, silently asking if she was okay to go ahead. She gave me a quick nod and continued on toward her house while I turned to face the small group gathering around. "What was in that house?" asked a man who looked to be in his 30s. The rest stood quietly, waiting for my answer. I looked around to make sure it was just us. "A demon," I said bluntly. "A mean bastard. Worst one I've faced in my career so far." "A demon?" one of the others echoed, his voice full of disbelief. "Come on, those don't really exist, do they?" "If they didn't," I said, lifting my pant leg just enough to reveal the deep cuts along both thighs, "I wouldn't be standing here with these and saying one nearly killed me back there." They stared at the wounds, eyes wide, and slowly started to accept the truth. "Well then, who summoned the damn thing?" another man asked, and suddenly they were all asking the same question at once. "I don't know," I said. "My guess? Someone from around here. But I'm not sticking around to find out." They still had more questions, plenty of them, but I turned and walked back to my car. Molly came out a few minutes later, a small bag in her hand, and climbed into the passenger seat. We drove off, and that was the end of it. We went back to my place, and soon after, we started dating. We're in Paris now, thought the city suited us. Romantic, yet full of history and shadows. She's been training too, wants to help me in the future, says she wants revenge for her son. I called Asaph to let him know the job was done and the favor repaid. He was pleased, real pleased, said I handled it better than he expected. Then he wired $100,000 into my account, told me he might want to work with me again in the future. As much as I hate the guy, he's right. We would make a good team, and if I can get my new partner on board, the three of us, we'd be unstoppable.